Welcome to the Motoring Podcast, your weekly discussion of motoring news. This is episode 81, a review of 2016 special edition. Hello, I'm Alan.
Hello, I'm Andrew. And Happy New Year-y, nearly.
Sometime, whenever, yes. Happy festive period, or what's left of it, to you as well.
Yes. And to our dear listeners.
Yes. Listener.
Yes, we've thought this one out.
Yeah, we got as far as numbering it and remembering to record it.
Yes, we've done well there.
And then there's been some serious remembering of actually what happened during the year.
And it turns out it's been quite a big year.
There has been so much stuff. I mean, we have a monster, I was going to say set of lists. List and set of lists. To go through, and yeah, just to work out just a quick summary of what went on during the year. And of course, the big news story all year long, which as ever has been both a blessing and a curse to us, has been Dieselgate.
Yes.
I mean, Dieselgate has seen heads roll right across Volkswagen and Audi in particular. And it's really not showing much sign of stopping, is it?
No, it is.
Dieselgate juggernaut.
No, it is definitely rumbling on. I can't see an end to it. I mean, there are things getting to an end, like they're reaching agreements in the US over fines and actions, but then Europe has cropped up sort of the middle towards the end of this year, talking about legal action being required and compensation and things like that. So we'll have to see where that goes. But it's still, I mean, I think Volkswagen are trying to draw lines under it as quickly as possible and move on. I mean, they're being very vocal now, aren't they, about how they're going to be an electrified vehicle manufacturer, and that is the future. They're appointing people from outside the company now in key roles, therefore removing any even merest whiff of Dieselgate issues with people. And culpability and stuff. But the thing is that, of course, it's Dieselgate is rolling on, and it's spilt over from within the VW group into other companies too, with Fiat and Renault being particularly peered at now. Yeah, Opel were as well, but then that's been sort of shelved a bit, because it's helped to demonstrate how, well, for the wider population, how inadequate the EU testing regime is.
Yes.
Because the Opel one in particular is to do with, that, if I remember correctly, is that they declared that there was a device that would do things to the engine for safety reasons, and other manufacturers have done that. So it seems to be that if you declared you had a device that switched off portions of the engine under certain conditions, that's okay. It's if you don't, that's naughty.
Yeah. And that's where
the same result comes out the tailpipe. So,
well,
hopefully, when they come out with the new legislation, the new testing regime, that these sort of things will be tightened up heavily. If not, then I think there's going to be lots of consumer groups and environmental groups screaming at the EU.
On the other hand, whilst I said there was spillover from Volkswagen Group, what's quite amazing about it is that when this started, there were a lot of cries of, well, everyone's doing it. This is happening everywhere. As soon as you get Volkswagen, you're going to get everyone's doing it. And that hasn't really been the case.
No.
And it's, I mean, you were saying about the inadequacy of the current tests, but, you know, some manufacturers actually, in real life, get better than the results in the tests. And some of the vehicles are, you know, pretty much bang on right the way through. So it's not a case that everyone were doing it. And I think that to be honest, is a real positive in just how much we know. But
if we can take one from this,
if we can take one from that, it's the fact that actually the majority of manufacturers do seem to be quite on the ball with this, and are not trying to pull wool over people's eyes. Or if they are, they're not succeeding very well.
Yeah, but what I would say though is that as we suspected and as we saw towards the end of last year, the public and the mainstream press's focus is definitely on car manufacturers. And this year, any little thing that wasn't completely 100% as expected was leapt on by the press, and sometimes was blown out of proportion, sometimes was justifiably so. But they were high. What I'm trying to say is, I think that
it's high sensitivity.
It was high profile, wasn't it? It was under the microscope, so anything was discussed. But that didn't affect VW sales, really.
Well, not here in the UK, not too much. I mean, they're down a little bit, but also, but it didn't affect used prices of cars, which are within the scope of where the issues were and stuff. So, so it's not been nearly as catastrophic for Volkswagen as it could well have been.
The vulture lawyers had to couldn't swoop in and say, "Look what you've done. My client it requires compensation." So
there were many attempts, and certainly many following me on Twitter. But yeah, nothing has come of those. Should we keep on through the good news?
Yes, let's get this all out of the way.
So the other big story of the year was, of course, here in the UK, the referendum result around leaving the EU, and the speed with which the government declared that it was definitely going to happen. And that, as I'm sure you can imagine, even in the run-up to the vote, introduced a stack of uncertainty around vehicle manufacturing, import and export here in the UK. I think one of the strongest points, and this turned into a strong story later in the year, was just how strongly people around the largest car plant in the country, the Nissan plant up at Washington, Sunderland and Tyne and Wear, how strongly there was an outvote all around it, which has supposedly, if it was going to be revoted, would become an in-vote, because people have realised just what it meant. And of course then the work by Nissan and by the British government to try and secure the future of the plant, and that was really quite scary when Nissan were looking at that, because that would have been a significant blow to the automotive industry here in the UK, both with Nissan and, of course, then the knock-on effect to suppliers in logistics and components in all these things.
Yeah.
Big deal.
Well, I mean, they were the first one to have to make a decision, because
they were.
Their product cycle was, it's January that the new Qashqai's location had to be decided for. But the government have set a precedence, though.
Yeah, they have, and what we still don't know is what the impact of that's going to be on people that manufacture vehicles here in the UK on a large scale. So we've got Toyota, Honda, BMW, of course, for Mini and the components that BMW build. They've just invested a lot of money in Hams Hall for diesel engine, for example, and also General Motors and Vauxhall too. There, Ford have been far clearer. Ford have made it clear that if there's a penalty for doing business in the UK, then they're off. They're out of here. And there is precedent for Ford doing that before. I've just been reading a book all about British Motor Corporation, British Leyland, and how that worked. And one of the things that whenever, in the past, when there have been issues in the UK, in that case it was labour issues, Ford said, well, we'll make some bits, but we're not building cars in the UK. And so they basically pulled right out. And of course they pulled transit production from the UK a couple of years ago as well, moved it to Turkey. So I really wouldn't be surprised.
These are big businesses, and they their job is to make money. It's not to look after a particular country.
They are not charities.
No.
But, yeah, and I'm not saying they're right or wrong. I'm merely pointing out the precedent. So
yeah.
So yeah. We shall see, and I think we'll start to see the impact on pricing of this uncertainty, where people try and position new models so that if and when things happen, then they can then there's less of a perceived impact by staging, any new any rises in price, really.
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to say. So we'll see what happens, because we are still very much a net importer of cars.
Yep. Well, continuing on the wonderful news, FCA didn't have the best of years, really. One thing and another.
Yeah. No, FCA had a tricky time. I mean, manipulated sales figures in the US, and nobody knows how long that's been going on for, has been a little bit grim.
Many recalls.
Many recalls. Again, the majority in North America and stuff, but it still all reflects back on a company called Fiat Chrysler, where Fiat is at the front of the name there.
Yeah.
Then, it all has that knock-on effect. So it's just another blow to the trustworthiness of manufacturers. And once again, it gave the press a chance to have another pop at that and to underline that for us. So yeah, not so great.
No.
So one of the other big three, now that we've already spoken about Ford and Chrysler, Vauxhall was on fire this year.
They were. Actually, not literally. Actually.
Some Vauxhalls were literally on fire. Yes. Actually and literally. There's another one for the year. So, yes, there was a recall over the Zafira B and them catching fire because of dodgy repairs. There's a recall.
It was dodgy repairs to start off with, and then there was a second recall, wasn't there?
There was.
So that gave the implication that there was something a bit more to it than just the dodgy repairs. But with the Zafira, I thought that Vauxhall at the time reacted well to the news. They released video statements. They were quite public, and they came across as very public and open to get this issue sorted quite quickly. When that was of a time when other manufacturers were perhaps not being perceived as being open and quick, and people taking it seriously within companies or appearing to. I thought Vauxhall did a good job on the Zafira. I mean, not that the mainstream press gave them any break on that front at all.
Particularly not that watchdog.
No.
That was out, but yeah, quite. But more recently, there's been the recalls of the 1.4 turbo Corsas. Yep. And there is some muttering around Corsa D's and E's, but no recall, nothing really announced yet.
No. Then I think we move on to more sad news.
Yes.
Sad news that Audi have left the World Endurance Championship.
Yeah, which is a real shame. And again, it's one of those those impacts of Dieselgate. They have to be seen to be belt tightening.
It's a nice high profile project to shelve in order that people perceive they are making steps. It's like the World Rally and the Polo. Yeah,
and then similarly, with Volkswagen and that stuff. Of course, they're not totally leaving the World Endurance Championship because they still have Porsche racing in there. So yeah, it would be nice to see both head to head. But there we go. That was that.
And in news, I know you were devastated at, Alan.
Goodness. Land Rover, yes, of course. Land Rover shelved the Defender as well. So the Defender, after 60 years, was it, of continuous production of a vehicle similar to the Defender in many ways, came to an end, and we are currently in the hiatus between that and the next sort of fully off-roady utilitarian Land Rover.
Mm.
So many people were sad about that. I think it's a wonder that it was still being produced. But that's just me.
You don't need.
I'm unfair about these things. Who needs a shoulder? Shoulders are overrated.
People in hunter jackets and wellies will be finding you.
Yes, in the middle of
Barber jackets,
Chelsea.
sorry,
In the middle of barber jackets and Hunter Whaleys. Yes, in the middle of Chelsea, are most upset. But you can still. I mean, some places bought up stocks, and you can still buy. Tuned defenders. And second, and if you already owned one, then it's fantastic for you. A relatively new one, then it's fantastic for you because second-hand prices have really not descended in any way, shape, or form.
Yes, quite.
So, they were a fine investment if you're that way inclined.
Good news.
Yes.
Now on to the good news.
Good news. Yes, the new every month I get overly excited by the SMMT new vehicle registration figures, and over the course of the year they have generally, they were increasing quite strongly earlier in the year. Post June, it's been much more of a levelling off and a flattening off of year-on-year figures. So I mean, there's no real drop. And they're flat to increasing still, which is surprising. In some cases, the Ford Fiesta,
yes,
for example, never ceases to amaze me, and just where they will end up. Later on in this, we're going to be talking about our predictions, and I noticed that there was one of them was sent in around the Ford Fiesta from one of our listeners. So to repeat that later, which I think was pretty good. Question is, can that continue to happen? Is it going to stabilize? What factors are going to force that to change to hopefully not?
Well, yeah, I mean,
possibly pop the bubble. With
recent news, local, as in this country, and global news, politically, we're in for an interesting ride, I think is one way to put it. So we shall see what effects they have, whether they are good or bad. But we will be keeping our BDIs at the beginning of each month on spreadsheets and numbers, so we will keep you up to date.
Yep. And just on that note, because it's the Society of Motor Manufacturer and Trader numbers that we go through, they've been particularly vocal this year about needing access to the single market without penalties. So we'll see just what happens there as well. That ties back to Brexit earlier on.
But last year we were sad because Top Gear ended.
Yes, we were.
But it was back this year.
It was.
And it came. It was there for the series, and then Chris Evans went.
Yes.
Now,
yes.
We didn't really comment too much at the time because there was plenty being said. Occasionally, some of it was fair and balanced and not just screaming, which is what Twitter seemed to turn into on Sunday nights. One of the points for me was, when Chris Evans was appointed, what did anybody think he was going to be like? He was exactly what he has always been, which I was fine with, because I sat there and I thought, he's going to do this in this way, and he's going to present it in this way. He's very enthusiastic about cars, which is a good thing if you're going to be doing a car show. He's not just a presenter who's been parachuted in. He's at least very interested in cars. And I didn't think he did a dreadful job.
I mean, yeah, I actually thought he was going to mature into it in the second series.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was, as you say, got what we expected. There were some really cracking pieces in there. The split into two shows I didn't have a problem with it, with the news being in a separate one.
No.
My only real issue was I thought the star in a rallycross car was a bit cruddy, and I didn't find the sort of used car top trumps guest bit interesting at all. To be honest, I tended to skip those.
I'd gone off the guest coming in anyway.
Yeah.
I thought it's a bit of a tedious segment.
Mm-hmm. But I agree completely. But but you know, the rest of it, the car bits and stuff, I really enjoyed.
I was really surprised by LeBlanc.
Yeah, I think everyone was.
His pieces to camera I thought were really good.
the Nomad piece and stuff.
Yeah, we got to see the better bit of him rather than in the he wasn't as comfortable live in the studio.
But if you, I mean, we read we both read the Richard Porter's book, and on that bombshell, and it said that, well, the first series of, and he was saying in there, the first series of all new Top Gear, old Top Gear, whatever one it is, was pretty much the same. It was a bit stilted in places. It was a bit, it wasn't as coherent as everybody thinks it was.
Yeah.
For exactly the same reasons. It was new people starting to work together for the first time, and I think what the Grand Tour, which we're going to talk about now, I guess, it comes with that like 16 years or whatever it was, of 16 series or whatever of people working together and knowing each other and knowing exactly when they can poke fun and when not. And so that hit our screens 5, 6. Is this week 6?
It's week 5, isn't it?
Week 5. It might be, yeah. Yeah, it's week 5.
When we record this.
When we record this, yes. Then
you've just spoilt the magic.
We have just spoilt the magic.
We implied that it was over Christmas we were doing this. Never mind.
Yeah. So yeah, and it's got a bit of that. But again, new format and stuff, and they're finding it slightly. It's not quite as slick as it was in the Top Gear way, especially as there's some bits where they want to say things, but for legal reasons they're not allowed to.
Yeah.
But again, the mucking you get the mucking aboutness there that people liked and that got the viewing figures the last time. So whilst us car folks I don't think that was a very good review of whatever.
Well, the Audi A8.
The Audi A8. Well, yes, okay, yeah.
Well, let's put it this way: with that particular segment, two of my kids watched it and laughed throughout the entire time. So that just shows you what it was aimed at, and from that point of view, it was brilliant.
And they've always said the Grand Tour isn't really a car show; it just happens to be them and some cars.
Yeah,
and that some weeks some people get really grumpy. And they said that in the first episode at the very beginning. They said in week 2 people are going to hate it. And you never guess what? All the car people grumbled about week 2. Ta-da! But to be honest, to sit down and watch both of them, I found very enjoyable. I did enjoy both. I am enjoying both Top Gear and the Grand Tour. I think it's great that there's 2 of them. They're on at different times, and I'm really looking forward to the second series of Top Gear.
Yeah.
There we go. That's all I'm going to say on that.
Not the only person who's had a good year, though. Or people.
Gordon Murray design.
Ooh, top year.
I think if we gave out awards on this show,
they'd be very rubbish.
They would be very rubbish, but I think the overall award for whatever, the award for most awardiness, would have to go to Gordon Murray and Gordon Murray design. I mean, this year they've had, they've won awards. A lot of awards for the Ox.
Yep. Still want to test that.
President's Trophy, the Gilder Motoring Writers, and the RAC's Dewar Trophy. Now, we've got it in the list here, but you wrote this bit of the list, and I can't remember if that was for the Ox or the Shell car.
The Ox.
And it was for the Ox as well. Yeah, yes. That's good. That's what I was thinking. And of course, for the other thing that they released and showed was the hyper efficient internal combustion engine concept that they did based on the kind of T25 with Shell, and showing that off about just how efficient you could make a compact 3-seater city car.
Yeah,
and I just think that their stuff's fantastic. I have admired Gordon Murray for a long, long time. And Gordon Murray design was very quiet for a while, and I kind of thought he'd retired. But I think that I think we're seeing the fruits of that labour, and we seem to be seeing the fruits and the demonstration of some of the iStream work and development that they've been talking about then. I think it's been a great year for them. I'm really, really pleased.
Yep, some excellent stuff there.
So we've had a pretty busy year. Never mind Gordon Murray design. We've had a pretty busy year. This, of course, has been our first full year of doing the Motoring Podcast.
I'd forgotten how busy we'd been.
Me too.
Because we ran through and created a list of some of the more standy-outy bits. And golly gosh, we've done a lot.
Well, it's much longer than I would have thought. So, yeah, I mean, the year began in early January, as Chris Morris said. So, yeah, I mean, last January we started off the year with BMW and Mini, and the very first press car of any type that I really got to drive was the BMW i8. And to me, that remains the pinnacle of the cars I've driven this year. That, to me, I know it was the very first one and the sort of end of January, but it absolutely stonking stuff, and just everything together in one vehicle like that. I just thought it was absolutely magnificent.
It made it very special.
Yeah,
the drive was very special.
And lots of other good stuff. Good stuff we got to try out there as well. Hybrid X5s, new Minis, new all sorts of bits and pieces, and that was really.
We got to see how good the new Mini platform and format and all that was. It was very good. Very, very impressed with that.
Which was great. February was quieter. March, I was at, of course, the Geneva Motor Show, as I am pretty much every year, and whilst we agreed on many things, you still don't like that Opel GT concept, which I thought was lovely.
No, you're wrong.
No, I'm right. You still don't like it.
But you're wrong about you liking it. And the reasons why you gave. But, yeah.
Yes.
And then we had our first car. It was loaned to us to review.
We did.
The Honda Civic 1.8 i VTEC Sport.
Yes. If you're brave enough to listen back to the review, yes.
Yes, that is that. We have changed our format of reviews.
That is one of the things.
And
yeah.
that was one of the main reasons. Not that particular one, but that format was not good for us.
I'm sorry, I completely trashed your review there, and I really didn't mean to. But one of the things I meant to say at the start of this is we have learned.
I stand by the review and what I said. I do not stand by the format in which it was delivered.
We have learned so much this year, folks.
Crikey,
we really have. You guys at home, fantastic. You know, I'll get to the smushy stuff later, but we have learned so much this year. There's lots of things that were done that you guys just haven't seen because they were a learning curve. I think that's what we're best to tick them down as.
Yes.
One of those learning curves was last March, Great Escapes Cars Media Day, where we got to meet a whole bunch of people that you'd met some of them, but I hadn't before. And yeah, great day out and some classic cars around Wales and England, which was superb.
It was. And then we did our first proper special edition in the form that we thought special editions would take, which is to pick a special topic and bring in an expert on it. Yes, Richard, you're an expert.
Oh, I know we could get was Rich, yeah.
I did not say that. God. Well, at least you're alienating one specific person instead of swathes of society, which is what you seem to have done over the year. But we talked about what the options were for alternative fuels, and that was really well received. And we were really happy. Well, I was very happy with what came out from that show.
Yep, I thought it was great, and it's been one that we've referred back to, and other people have said they referred back to too, and it was brilliant. So, Rich, in all seriousness, thank you so much for that. That was much appreciated in there. What was next? Next up was, I suppose we got to April. There was the whole tracking down a new vehicle for the windscreen family.
Yep, we methodically and scientifically went through a list of specific needs, wants, desires, narrowed it down to 10 or 12 cars, and then weeks later I bought something completely off the list.
Yes, which was always going to happen. It was always going to happen. Have you been happy with what you bought completely off the list, Andrew?
Yes, I still smile every time I get in it.
That's what matters, folks. That's it. Doesn't matter if it's on the list or not, as long as you smile and as long as you still love it, that's what matters.
Yep.
Next up, I went to
We let you out in public, didn't we?
I was let out in public for the first time on my own. I went to the SMMTD at Millbrook, which was terrifying. On many, many levels, was absolutely terrifying.
Another day of lessons learned, I think, is the...
That
was a curve that was learned.
That was a very steep curve that was learned. So there's some manufacturers I need to go back for and say, you know how you never heard from us again. But yeah, and lots of fun stuff out of that. I mean, there's 4 episodes in particular that came out, and there's lots of other background stuff as well.
There's videos,
great to meet
stuff.
Great to meet lots of people in person, and also gives us a good chance to drive loads and lots of loads of vehicles. I think that next year, though, I think we'll tone down the number of vehicles I try and drive, because it took me about a week to recover. After that, I was absolutely puggled by the end of it. July saw another test car, though.
Yes, Honda weren't completely offended by the format of the review. They lent me a CRV. So the 1.6 ID Tech EX.
Which I was going to say, which we then took to the Coventry Moto Fest.
Yes, we did.
Which was another cracking outing.
It was where I forgot how to cross roads.
You did, that's true. I'd completely forgotten about that.
No, I had.
Yes. So Coventry Motor Fest, again, guys, it's something that you should make a note of and make sure you try and put in your diary for next year, because
we're trying to get there.
At least one of us will be back there again next year, this year, 2017.
And it was quiet for the rest of the summer then, wasn't it?
Well, we were sort of taking holidays and stuff.
People had holidays and everything, but we still produced shows, which I was
quite
impressed with, actually.
That's no small undertaking. September, I got the Future for a weekend, the Hyundai iX35 hydrogen fuel cell vehicle for a weekend, which was to ferry my folks around in for a weekend. Around Berkshire and around London, and couldn't have been a better vehicle for it. Listen back to episode 63 if you want to hear me talk about that. Which was pretty cracking. But September also brought another SMMT day.
Yes,
another whole bunch of content.
This one I dragged you up north for.
Did I had to go to York? It was York, wasn't it?
Yep.
That's terrible. I almost said Leeds there.
God,
it's the correct shire. So yeah, I had to get dragged north for that. But again, another great outing.
We didn't try and tackle too much that day. We set our stall up for a few things we wanted to do, a few people we definitely wanted to meet, and then we let the day unfold after that. So it was good to meet some motoring journalists and stuff. That was nice to meet them face to face and say hello. And it was also very good to meet the manufacturers and their representatives. So I really enjoyed that day, actually.
Yeah, it was a goodie. It was a cracker. And we managed to learn from what we'd done throughout the year too. September, then, not long after, you had a really busy week of that, didn't you? Because not long after that, you were at the launch of the new Seat Ateca.
It actually was the day before the SMMT. I was at the Seat Ateca launch, but we didn't get to talk about it until after. But yeah, that was our first launch. So, how far we come in just a year from two blokes talking about cars to suddenly manufacturers saying, would you like to come to a launch, or would you like to try these cars? And that's never lost on us, by the way.
No.
At no point are we ever arrogant about this. At no point do we ever think you should give us a car or anything like that. Not at all, because they're businesses and everything costs money. We understand that. But we are gratified that people do think that what we do is good enough to mean that we can go on, get cars to test or go on a launch thing, and we will represent what happened in a fair and valuable way. So, that was excellent. And on the back of the Seat Ateca launch, that's such an important car for Seat, and we can see that, and it's been reflected in the sales now.
Yeah, totally. Really has been. But September brought us round to our year's anniversary, and of course, you might have noticed, in fact, many of you have noticed, that we launched a new show in September. So, review, which yes, and I guess this is a pretty good spot to just say thank you to everyone who's been on review, especially those of you who signed up and were approached and got bullied into recording this show that you just hadn't heard because it didn't exist.
Yes.
So thank you so much for having faith in us.
Absolutely.
It's been absolutely genius, and everyone who's been involved with that. It's a great. I've had nothing to do with it so far, which is possibly why it's been a great show so far. But I look forward to it every Friday coming out, because I don't get previews of this stuff. So I thoroughly enjoy it. It's great. October came around.
Another
funnily
launch.
enough, between September and November.
Yes.
And another launch. You were off. You were pretty local, but
yes.
You're at the Hyundai Ioniq.
Ioniq launch. Yeah, that was great. It was excellent. I got to meet up with Richard. Actually, Richard Gooding, who was from the Alternative Fuel Special Edition and has been on a couple of other shows with us in the last year. Because the poor man.
He's a masochist.
Yes, quite. And he was my driving partner, and it was really interesting to see. Because I'd driven over the summer in a Hyundai, although the review didn't come out till later in the year. But I'd driven in a Hyundai, and getting in this their future direction, their future models, it was really interesting because it felt so normal, and they weren't scared of the roads that they took us on. They were not very carefully neutral, calm, gentle little roads. There was some testing roads if you wanted to push the car. So that was interesting to see that how that was done, and it was interesting to be on another launch and how a manufacturer approaches these things.
Yep. And
we got into November then, didn't we?
Yeah, I finally actually did some sort of review of the MX-5, but I talk about the MX-5 almost every single week, apart from when I'm banned. So I'm not going to talk about it today.
But that was the first of our. We mentioned it about the Civic.
I suppose
review.
It was, wasn't
that
it?
That was the first episode to come out of our change of format.
It was, wasn't it? I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, which felt much more comfortable to me, and you seem to feel much more comfortable about it as well.
Yeah, and people seem to like it better, just generally.
Yeah.
Which is fab. Also in November, we got quick outing, that sounds terrible. We also had a day of Subarus just up the road from me, which was fantastic to actually be off-roading what is essentially an estate car with quite an impressive transmission. Was another cracker there as well, and that brought us to this month.
Yeah, and we've been busy
so far this month. We've got 2 reviews out already this month, Hyundai Tucson and the Mitsubishi Outlander, and the Mitsubishi Outlander, and there's some more to come.
Yep.
And that basically takes us to the end of the year.
Yes. Bit of a year, Alan. Well done for making it through the calendar year.
That's what you mean, just making it through that list, I know, yes. But we can't do it without you, and we can't do it without your support. You've been fantastic all year at leaving... telling friends about spreading the word about both Motoring Podcast and latterly about Rearview, and leaving star ratings and reviews for us via the podcast playing platform of your choices. The most popular and powerful of all is iTunes. So once again, I'm going to ask you if you can leave a 5-star rating on iTunes, and even better if you can leave a bit of a review as well. Other podcast apps, of course, like Stitcher, Pocket Cast, Downcast, Overcast, and similar, all have ways of letting you upvote, rate, or review whatever it is you're listening. So if you do use those, if you could upvote, rate, in whichever way you possibly can. That would be greatly appreciated. These ratings mean a lot and drive quite complex algorithms, which help get us towards the tops of charts. You also might have noticed that we've begun putting out this show on YouTube. It remains a bit of an experiment at the minute, but we're curious to see what the uptake's going to be. So please take a moment, if you can, take a moment or two to visit youtube.com/motoringpodcast. Or of course, just search for Motoring Podcast on YouTube. And if you can subscribe to a channel, listen, and like the videos. They are really set up to play in the background, so that you can listen along rather than having any fancy visuals. But if you could, that would be just great. Let us know what your thoughts are on that as a project.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on, though,
we made predictions last year, didn't we? They were far-reaching, hard-hitting, and many.
Yeah, we did one each.
No, yeah, it was the opposite of that, wasn't it? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it was completely the opposite.
We were complete scaredy cats.
Yes, we were terrified.
What was it? Show 16 or something? So,
something like that, yeah. Yeah, but anyway, Andrew, what was your prediction last year?
I predicted, after gazing in my crystal ball, that Apple and Google would be doing all the operating systems for all the manufacturers.
And how's that worked out?
Not really. No. Although more manufacturers are offering the option.
There's lots now in lots of vehicles from Mitsubishi Outlanders up right through are offering CarPlay and more often CarPlay than Google Car thingy. In their vehicles, so it is. You're partly there. I give you a part way on this one.
Yeah, but I wasn't meaning that, because what struck me is how the manufacturers are desperately working on their own operating systems themselves. But this has shown a shift in well, not a shift, but they've become more overt in their declaration that they want to have you as the consumer go to them full stop for, like with Ford, they want you to go to them for all your mobility needs. And they want you in their ecosystem all the way through.
Yes.
So they are expanding their horizons now, manufacturers, and they are looking at the operating system being, a place you go to for everything. So of course they're not going to go to Apple and Android. Android Auto or Auto Android, something like that.
Android Auto, I think it was. Yeah. Because it's all about that control of the information, control of the data, and some of that.
Yes, so whatever some of them want to do with it. I still think they should. I understand why they're doing it from a business point of view, but I wish they'd copy. Then they'd really finally copy what Apple or Android do, and have the experience be very easy.
Mm-hmm.
But we shall see.
Yeah, we'll see exactly.
So what was your hard-hitting, in-depth, and really far-sighted view?
Well, I declared that 2016 would be the year that mainstream manufacturers started taking aim at Tesla and really started coming out with basically really started competing against Tesla. And I feel that from when Porsche unveiled the Mission E was a major step in that direction, and then later on with the new Chevy Volt electrified car, and with even stuff like the Renault Zoe and the larger battery pack, and the i3 with its larger battery pack and all this kind of stuff, pitched more against that sort of Tesla Model 3 market. I really do feel that actually that is starting to happen. Not just that, but also the sort of partial autonomy. More manufacturers offering that sort of almost sort of level 1 autonomy, level 2 autonomy, starting to come in there where the vehicles will steer themselves in the lane, they will keep themselves at the right speed, they will do all that, which again was one of Tesla's selling points with autopilot. I feel that has happened, but I'm always going to say that because it was my prediction.
Yes. See, the problem I always have with these, anytime there's an electrified vehicle is mentioned, it's mentioned in the same sentence as Tesla.
Yes.
Now, Tesla hasn't, shipped 80,000 vehicles this year yet. I mean, that's the expected amount, isn't it, for 2016?
Mm-hmm.
Which is quite an improvement on what they did, but I think people seem to forget they're not a mainstream manufacturer.
No,
they are not at that
yet.
quantity yet. That is their aim, but they are not at that quantity yet. And so gunning for that market, yes. Gunning for Tesla specifically, I'm not so sure. Not yet. But what Tesla has done is it has caused manufacturers to pay more attention and move probably much quicker than they wanted to, anticipated in doing so. That's for sure. The autonomous type driving assistance, there's varying degrees of success in that, in the execution, isn't there? Hopefully that'll improve much more over time.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're closer than I am. That's for sure. You're definitely closer than I am. But I think the thing is flawed. Your original statement.
Yeah, thanks. Right. So now we've shot down each other's.
Yep. Should we have another go at shooting each other down?
Yeah. So do you want to run? In the interest of quality production, do you want to take it in turns, or do you want to just do yours?
We'll do it one after the other.
Do one after. Okay, you start then.
Okay. Again, this is not far-reaching, nor is it hard-hitting, this one, because I think we can all see this. But we're going to hear mobility an awful lot in the next year. And there's also going to be statements with the future of and platform and things like that. And you're going to see manufacturers scrambling about.
I'm sorry. Whoa, hang on a second here. The first week in January is CES, the Consumer Electronics Show.
Yeah.
If this doesn't come true in the first week of January...
Oh, we never said a timescale. We said 2017.
Yeah, I know.
The fact that you haven't... I don't know, but I presume you haven't picked something that's going to happen in CES. That's not my fault.
Well, I've tried not to.
That's not my fault.
Okay, I'll give you that. Okay, so your prediction is that buzzwords around mobility
we are going to have fantastic
buzzword
bingos. Just don't do a drinking game with them.
No, not
unless you don't need to do anything the next day.
That's about right.
Hopefully, at some point this year, someone from a manufacturer can explain all this in very simple words that mean something to us consumers, rather than just put out gobbledygook and statements that really nearly sound like something meaningful, but actually aren't.
Okay.
That's my hope.
I would, right. Okay. No, I think fair enough, if you insist. Yes.
No, go on then. What are you going to say to that? Go on.
No. I just think it's a shoo-in. That's all. I just think it's too easy. But yes, it is a prediction and a valid prediction, so we should go.
We just said prediction. We never said let's come out with some crazy predictions, did we?
No, we didn't. We didn't.
You may need to adjust it for next year.
I will do next year.
Nothing that happens in the first week of January is allowed to be.
Yeah. So right. So my first one, which is far more reasonable, and I've been doing strategy work for much of the. I've been doing strategy work for much of the week. So the trouble is that I've been overly specific on this. Is that I feel that by the end of next year, alternatively fuel vehicles will make 10% UK market share.
Really?
It's currently 3.3%. Yeah,
I think that's
high there.
Very big shout, especially with the changes in the VED.
I started with 5, I moved it to 7.5, and then I pushed it to 10.
I mean, I hope you're right, but I think you're really pushing it with the changes in the VED.
Yeah, I think I am really pushing it. But hey, what's life if we don't?
Aim high, Alan.
We were far too conservative last year. So there we go. So yeah, I'm reckoning 10% UK motorcar sales. By the end of 2017.
Okay.
Brave one. Back to you again then.
Right, I think, and this sort of links back to the Tesla prediction from last year for you, but I think there's going to be an even more bitter divide in the debate about autonomous vehicles. Mm-hmm. It's been incredibly silly this year, and people have used an awful lot of emotive language, and they've come out and said things they should not have said. And I'm not just talking facts and figures either. I think everybody just needs to calm down an awful lot, and let's take appropriate steps at this. We cannot rush stuff out, yet we do need to push development. I'm not sitting here like a Luddite. I mean, I am a Luddite, but I am not sitting here as a Luddite going, oh no, we can't have autonomous vehicles. I can see the sense in some assistance and autonomous aspects of driving in today's world without any infrastructure being set up. The infrastructure is still not there properly or good enough to have us autonomous in all places. They can be autonomous in very specific areas at best. We can't do beta testing on the public roads, and I'm talking about what 99% of the population of the world understands beta testing is, and not Tesla's interpretation of beta testing. There. So I think we need to calm down about it and approach it in not necessarily halt progress, but I think we need to be a bit more measured in how we are moving this forward.
Agreed. Cool. Good one. Good one. Then. So my next one, my second one, is that the next chapter of Dieselgate is going to be about nitrogen oxide emissions.
Oh, come on. You had a go at me about CES.
Yeah.
Oh,
hey, I figured
referee, sure.
Hey, I've got fewer than you anyway, so I've got less chance of success. I'm going to have to borrow other people's, ones that we've been sent in a minute. So, yeah, I think that there really is going to be a big nitrogen oxide emissions scandal next year. I think that's really.
But where?
Europe.
Really? Good.
Oh, sorry, was that? So it was nitrogen oxide tailpipe emissions.
Okay, but we already know they exceed.
Yeah, but I think it's going to get even bigger. I think there's going to be. Yeah, I just think it's going to be as big as the
more of a thing.
The CO2s. More of a thing. That's
more
it.
Of a
That's
focus.
as close as I can get.
Okay. I thought you were being exact about your strategies.
I gave up after that.
Okay. No, I can see that. Yeah, I can see that. But I think if I've cheated with my first one, then you were so cheated.
Lots of shouting about nitrogen oxide emissions. Yeah, I don't feel so bad about your first one now. So go on, number 3 for you.
No, I'm not reading that one out. I'm going.
No, you've got to.
No, I will read the next one because I'm cutting that out.
Oh, you can't cut that out.
I can't put that out.
Why not? That's all right. I'm going to do the same in just a minute. Only not quite as bad.
No.
That's satire. That's allowed. It's satire.
No, okay. Well, there's one I was thinking about putting in.
You can't add another one.
No, I'll do it instead of that one. So, here we go.
I can't believe you've wussed out.
No, I can't put that. Jeez, no, people in balaclavas are going to whisk me away in the night. Okay, my third prediction then is that...
Fourth one.
Is that Carlos Ghosn will become the CEO of all the car companies in the world. All of them.
That's interesting. It is definitely getting that way. Yes. Okay.
And the Imperial March from Star Wars will be played wherever he walks.
Now, that's funny, because my third prediction, and we didn't collude on these at all, by the way, as you can probably tell by the difference in standard, is that Sergio Marchionne will not be in charge of a vehicle manufacturer this time next year.
When did he announce he was retiring?
He hasn't announced it.
I thought
as far as I'm aware, he hasn't.
I thought he had. Okay, so you're claiming that you haven't.
I was not aware that was the case.
Right.
This was made up without that.
Will he still be in charge of Ferrari F1?
I don't know. It's a vehicle manufacturer.
Vehicle manufacturer.
Because that could be read a number of ways.
So he will no longer be in charge of FCA. Is that what you're saying?
No, he will not be in charge of a vehicle manufacturer.
Okay. All right. I think that's a brave one. I can see that going either way.
Yes, so can I. Which is why I think it's a brave and interesting one. So you're going to go for your fifth one now?
I'm going to go for my fourth one.
All right, okay. That's not the way I counted it.
Which is, but it's what the listeners hear. New registration is going to shrink next year.
Oh, I hope you're not right. I hope you're...
This is not a happy one. This is not a
happy one. No. I think it's a totally valid one. We don't want it to happen, but it might.
Another thing I can see happening is that people will start to investigate how this new registration happens and what happens to those cars that are new registered, which may cause a bit of a clamour for people to start saying, no, what do you actually sell?
Mm-hmm.
Because I've seen more and more noise being made on the Twitter sphere.
By people who don't make that kind of noise as well.
People saying, really? All these cars? Where are they going?
Mm-hmm.
So I can see that happening. And I'm sorry that I've brought in a not a happy one, but... No,
I think that is totally valid, completely reasonable as well. Can I only wrote 3, so I'm going to steal my fourth one from Rotation Up North, who kindly supplied a couple.
And some of them we can repeat.
Some of them we can repeat, but I'm vaguely connected to that. I'm going to predict that Ford Fiesta sales reach overflow and start to go negative.
Yes.
Which I think So, yes, completely disconnected from the statements made by my colleague a few moments ago in his prediction.
Okay, my last prediction then.
Right.
The Tesla Model 3 will get delayed again.
That's not a prediction.
Well, come on, you're picking someone who's already announced a retirement date, and you're talking about an item that has already come to the fore in the news, and you're having a pop at me.
Yeah, all right then.
Cheeky so-and-so.
I'm trying to work out which of the rest of these I can read out. Here's about this last one. There will be a press release will come out at some point next year, motoring-related press release at some point next year, which is just so full of rubbish that nobody publishes it at all.
Okay, I like that. That ties in with mine as well.
Yes,
I like that.
It will be,
I think the two will be combined.
Incredible rubbish. It's just such incredible rubbish that everyone looks at it and goes, "Just there's no way."
From a mainstream manufacturer.
From a mainstream manufacturer.
Okay, all right.
Yes, from a mainstream.
Because we have seen some press releases. Because
I was about to say, the thing is, there are some quite incredible press releases. There are always lots of things we could talk about every week, but we figure that new designs in windscreen wipers probably don't interest you. So we tend to skip around many of those and try and keep to the...
Yeah,
believe it or not, we do try to keep to the interesting stuff.
Done.
Yes. So that's it. That's it for Prediction Corner. So those are now...
So we've gone big
for posterity.
And we've gone large this year.
We've gone to the other way, and I think it's probably... Yeah.
It's a bit of fun.
It is a bit of fun.
Till the lawyers get involved.
Which they won't for any of those.
Good. Any that they're heard.
There is going to be some judicious editing around this, some of which is valid and some of which is not valid. Anyone who might ever hear this in case he forgets to cut it.
That's about it, though, isn't it, for our review of the year?
It is for our review of the year. The only thing really left to do is to say thanks. So just very quickly, thank you so much to the people who have been on, whom we've had as guests, or even who've offered to be on as well, because we have had quite a lot of that, which is hugely flattering. So thanks to everyone who's been on Review. As I said, that is incredibly interesting, and just thank you so much. There's thanks also to the manufacturers and the PR departments and the SMMT and all these people who have supported us. The scariest thing that's been said to me all year was at the first SMMT day when a PR chap turned around to me and said, "I recognise that voice." As his opening gambit, and that was quite terrifying. And has continued to be quite terrifying when other people have said it throughout the year. So thank you so much. And that really ties in listeners as well. Without all of you, we probably would do it.
But it wouldn't have as much meaning.
And
we wouldn't be doing the stuff we're doing in the background. We wouldn't be doing that if people weren't listening, people weren't chatting to us on Twitter and saying how much they enjoyed it, or giving it, or fact checking us, which we always appreciate, actually. And I don't mean that sarcastically. If we get something wrong, we need to know, because we don't want to be putting out duff information. We say things that we feel or we think at the time is correct, and if it isn't, then we need to know so we can correct that. And
we're quick enough to whinge when we see rubbish out there as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, it is only fair. There is one last person to thank, and this is probably going to get cut because he does that kind of thing, but pretty much every single episode of Motoring Podcast that you've heard this year, and every single one of Review, has been edited by Andrew.
Stop it, I'm getting emotional.
He does a ridiculous amount of work on this at stupid hours of the morning, and continues to decline my offers to do the editing instead. So, thanks, mate.
No,
it wouldn't happen without you. So thank you so much.
Well, no, I think as we've proved, when you've not been there, the show is not the same. So it is a team effort.
We're going to have to be rude and call each other names once we've stopped recording, just to redress the balance, because this feels so wrong.
Yes.
Yeah.
Next we'll be asking for hugs or something. So. Yeah. And we've not even had a drink or anything.
I know. I've got a bottle of water beside me. It's not the same recording during the day. So no, thank you everyone in totality for all your support through 2016. And here's to 2017 growing and being even better than 2016.
Yeah,
from a Motoring Podcast point of view.
Absolutely.
Does that round us up? That pretty much rounds us up for the year, doesn't it?
I think so. It's just done. We'll be back second week of January.
Yes, I'll talk to you about that in a minute. Yes, we will be. So, don't forget that between now and when we're back, you can give us any feedback and share your thoughts with the show at Motoring Podcast on Twitter and Instagram, on Facebook, and on the contact page of motoringpodcast.com, the hub of all our activities. Just because we're not recording podcasts doesn't mean we won't still be putting out won't still be putting out rubbish on social media as well. But please don't forget to leave a review and a rating on iTunes or however your podcast app lets you do such a thing, as well as liking and subscribing our YouTube. For both Motoring Podcast and Review, it really, really does matter. Andrew, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
The best way would be via Twitter. If you search for Cracked Windscreen, you will find me there with my delightful pose on the rear bumper of a Subaru. And how about you, Alan?
This is true. The best way to get in touch with me is, once again, Twitter, where I'm at AJP Bradley. That's BRADLEY. We'll be back very soon. But until then, I've been Alan Bradley.
I've been Andrew Clews.
Have a very happy holidays and safe motoring.